Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, Mr. Action, back at you with another episode of Packed In Action Figure Reviews, where we give you that action that's packed in. And on today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at the long-awaited Marvel vs. Capcom Cable. And I know a lot of you guys have been waiting to grab your hands on this figure and, take a look and see, what he has to offer. So without further ado, let's get this guy off of the stand and let's take a closer look. And ladies and gentlemen, here we have Nathan Summers, aka Cable, right out of the packaging. And I honestly feel like Hasbro really did their thing with the execution of this Cable in his Marvel vs. Capcom 2 costume. Now this figure is one that has been anticipated for quite some time now. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting to get your hands on this version of Cable. We have had previous iterations of Cable before in his more, so to speak, classic look. So it is nice that we are getting a refresh, revision of this Cable in this costume. I know a lot of you guys can't wait to take your different Capcom figures, whether they be Mega Man or some of your Street Fighters from Jada Toys, and just mix and match some of the different fighting posabilities that you guys can create. Now that being said, while I do think that this is a pretty decent execution of the costume, I definitely do feel like there are minor gripes about this figure that take away from the overall greatness of what it possibly could be, unfortunately. So with that being said, let's take this guy off the rotating stand and let's take a closer look. So first things first, we're gonna jump over into the accessories, and we get a pretty good decent amount of accessories that comes with this Cable. We get his 2 guns and we get 2 pairs of trigger fingers. So first things first, taking a look at his big pistol, we do have this nice gun here. It is molded in a nice metallic kind of sheen here. We do see that there is some black detail in the paint, and I also do like the fact that there is some texture to the actual handle of the gun, just to show that it does have some grip on there. But overall, this is a pretty nice, decent gun. Quick little fun fact for those of you who don't know, for those of you who do know, these guns are actually Nerf guns from Hasbro that have been basically translated into Marvel Legends form, which I think is actually pretty cool. And then over here we do have his smaller size gun. We do have some nice detailing in there, so it's nice to know that it's not completely flat. I do like the fact that the black paint on here definitely does break up the dynamics of the gun. And as similar to the one before, we do also see that there is some nice texture on the handles, just so that way Cable does have that nice grip on there. Then last but not least, we also do have these trigger finger hands, and I think they also came out pretty decent, you know what I'm saying? You can definitely tell that he's wearing gloves. You can see the wrinkles in them. So pretty good fair amount of accessories that we get with Cable. The only really complaint that I have is that I kind of wish that we did have, Cable's huge gun. But if you do happen to have his previous gun from the previous Cable, you can utilize this to your liking. Unfortunately, of course, the color palette is not going to be the same, but this is just there for you if you do want some variety in your Cable. Now jumping right along over into the aesthetics of this figure, I honestly feel like Hasbro did a pretty decent job at the execution of this Cable in his Marvel vs. Capcom 2 costume. I really do like the design, and I think that the execution is pretty okay. And the reason why I say pretty okay is when we take a closer look at the figure, we are going to see some of the flaws. Now, the first thing I do want to point out is that his head, in my opinion, is a little bit on the large side. At this point in time, I've just come to the realization that most of the figures that Hasbro releases all have big heads, so I'm just gonna assume that that's a style for for the particular line. But despite that being said, I really do like the digital printing that Hasbro has done. Taking a closer look at Cable's face, we do see that he has a 5 o'clock shadow. I really do like the detailing with like even some of the wrinkles on his face. I think that Hasbro did a really good job with that. Then over here, taking a look at the head sculpt, specifically mentioning the hair, they also did a pretty decent job. I kind of wish that we would have added some black wash into there just to kind of bring out some of the detailing in there. But apart from that, I think that the hair came out pretty good. Now there is one thing to note. I don't know if this is going to be on everybody's Cables, but I see here where his bangs are, it seems to be 2 separate pieces. So you are going to see very minor gappage. It's not so much that it's noticeable, but if you do, if you're up close and personal, you are going to see it, so that it is just something to mention. Then over here, moving along over into his costume design, I really honestly like the way how this came out. Over here taking a look at his straps, he does have the X logo, and I think that the paint work on this came out actually very, very clean. There's no blurry lines with the X logo, so very well indeed. And over here taking a look at his cybernetic arm, I really do like the way that this came out. However, one of my nitpicks is that all depending on certain angles where you hold this figure, you are going to see this nasty gap here. And of course, we know that the reason why that gap is there is for the articulation purposes, but for aesthetics, just looking at it from the plain view, I'm not gonna lie to you, it kind of does look weird to the eye. It looks like his forearms are really small compared to his biceps and his shoulders, and you are going to be seeing the same thing on his regular hand. But apart from that, I do like the overall muscle definition and the texture of the costume. I think that it came out pretty decent. Then over here taking a look at the straps, we do have some minor texturing, some minor line work inside of the straps. And the one thing to point out with the design of this costume is when he does bend his articulation, I do like this design, even though here that these straps kind of flare out like that, but the reason for that is so that way when you are bending him, his straps are not going to poke out like how it is on some other figures. So I do like the the design for that. Then over here taking a look at his pouches, we do have some more line work in his belt, and then we also do have some more pouches over here. I do like the paint work with the black and the red X-Men logo. Here we can kind of see that there is a little bit of missing paint on the X, but not a huge thing to really nitpick about. Then over here taking a look at his trunks, we do see some wrinkles in the trunks to show you that, well, they're trunks. Moving right over to the legs, we also do have some more pouches, and I think the pouches actually came out pretty decent. My only really concern really would be is that I kind of wish we had some more paint wash inside some of his pouches just to bring out some more of the detail. But overall, I think that how this figure is looking, it's looking really, really, really nice. Then over here, moving further down towards his knee pads, I do like that the knee pads are where the knee joints are. And of course, his boots do extend further down. Now, one thing that I will notice is that, the paint work here on his boots, it goes up into his upper shin, and it's painted on there. And even though the paint work here on mine is somewhat clean, depending on certain lights that you see it in, you are going to see the blue through it, and that can be a bit of a bummer for those who are very nitpicky about things like that. And then the other thing to notice is that where his boots are, there also is some vein work, and there's some veins where his boot should be. And of course, we know that the reason why that is because realistically this part of the foot is supposed to still be the muscular texture of his lower calf, but because it is painted over, unfortunately, you are going to get that smooth transition of basically smooth boots up until veiny feet. So it kind of does throw off the aesthetics of the figure a bit, but that is just something to note. But apart from that, I honestly feel like Hasbro did a pretty good job. Damn, I didn't realize I was talking so much. Now moving right along over into the articulation of this figure, starting off with the head, we do see that Cable's head is on a ball peg and on a hinge, so that is going to allow him to look all the way up as so, which I think is a pretty good decent range of motion as far as looking up. And when it comes down to looking down, he can look down about that much. Unfortunately, you're not going to get that much pivoting on the side to side. You do get little pivoting, so it's not going to be a lot, but you do get a pretty decent amount. Then moving over to the shoulders, his shoulders can go around 360. They do go out for you to do the T-man pose, and he does have double jointed elbows which go past 90 degrees, which I think is a pretty good range of motion. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, you are going to get that deep gap in there, but again, I understand that that's there due to the elbow bending, because a lot of bulky characters, unfortunately, when it comes down to the articulations, especially in the elbows, it's hard for them to get that 90-degree bend. Then over here, taking a look at the torso, we do have him bending about this much And I think that's a pretty decent range of motion going forward, and he can go back about this much, which I also think is a nice range of motion going back. Then moving over into the waist, his waist is on a waist swivel, so he can rotate left and right 360 degrees. When it comes down to the legs, he can kick out about that much forward. You're gonna get about this much movement in the back, and then he can do a split about that far out. So pretty decent range of motion for, considering how, thick, this guy is. Then he also does have some thigh cuts, which is 360 degrees. And I do like the fact that the pouches actually do cover the thigh cut, which was a pretty smart move, in my opinion. Then we also have double jointed knees, which go far back. And I think that this is a pretty good range of motion. And then he also does have boot cut. And then moving alongside over to the ankles, they are on hinges and they can go down about this much. They can go up about that much, and it is on a pivot. So a pretty good, decent range of motion for our beloved character here named Cable. Now jumping right along over into some size comparisons. Over there to the left, we do have the 3-way love triangle 3-pack Jean Grey. And over there to the right, we do have the X-Men 97 Cyclops body with the head swap from the VHS Cyclops. And, taking a look at, Cyclops, the son and the father, man, very nice, resemblance there. We can definitely see where, the inspiration of the costume design came from. Of course, the blues are going to be a bit different, as well as the yellows. And for some more size comparisons, over there to the left, we do have the X-Men 97 Wolverine. And then over there to the right, we also do have Bishop, a part of the Sauron wave. And, I'm really liking how these figures look side by side, you know what I'm saying? Specifically the Bishop and the Cable, similar to the Cyclops, the blues and the yellows are going to be a bit different. And for some more size comparisons for your Marvel vs. Capcom, over there to the left, we do have Ryu from Jada Toys. And over there to the right, we also do have Chun-Li. And I think, taking a look at, two different lines, within the same scale, I think that, if you wanted to get some nice poses or some, nice pictures with your Marvel vs. Capcom, you definitely could do that. And for some more Marvel vs. Capcom action, over there to the left, we do have the Marvel Legends Silver Samurai. And over there to the right, we also do have the big bad man himself, Thanos. And here we have the previously released Cable from the Sasquatch Wave? Yes, the Sasquatch Wave. Sasquatch Wave. Yes, the Sasquatch Wave. Try saying that 3 times fast. And, looking at them side by side, I think Hasbro did a pretty good job with the consistency of the height. Looking at the two, I feel like they're roughly about the same size. I'd actually give the height maybe to the Sasquatch Wave Cable a little bit more. And for some head swap action, if you wanted to take the newer head off of the Cable and put it on the old body, it actually doesn't look too bad. I actually say that, even though I know that the look is not accurate to how he looks, presented in this costume, I think that the head size actually fits perfectly, on the older body, considering he has all the shoulder pads and everything like that. The old head on the new body works too as well. However, it does seem to be a little bit on the large size, but it still works because most of the time Marvel Legends, they just have big heads. So, do what you will with that information. So, after all is said and done, I think this is a pretty good execution of Cable. I know that this is a figure that a lot of you guys have been really waiting on getting, and is it a figure that I would instantly pick up as soon as I see it? You damn right, Skippy, I'm gonna pick it up when I see it, because that's exactly what I did. Now again, while I do really am enjoying this figure, again, it's not to say that it doesn't have its imperfections or its flaws. But apart from those, all in all, I think that this is a pretty well decent executed figure. So if I had to give Cable here a score, I give him a solid 8.5. So once again, guys, thanks for checking out another episode of Packed In Action Figure Reviews, where we give you that action that's packed in. Please like and subscribe, as it helps out my channel tremendously. I wish you guys a wonderful day. Stay blessed.